Hi guys, welcome traders. It's Thursday. Welcome once again to another market update and outlook for the rest of this week. Thursday I should say, and Friday. It has been an interesting week with FOMC and the markets are playing out interestingly, more or less the way that we have looked at them in the beginning of this week. We've got our shortlist as always. Let's begin with the calendar, see what's happening for the rest of today and tomorrow, and then looking at how the price action is unfolding so far and where the next opportunity is. Let's have a look here on the calendar page. Thursday, 21st of September, we have already had the SNB policy rate from Switzerland, the bank rate from the Bank of England there as well just happened, and then we next have the initial jobless claims here. As you can see, the major news on the dollar, some more medium impact news there, and then we have again New York home sales here, and once again medium impact news as well. So there's a little bit of US news. And then tomorrow we have the yen CPI here, other yen news, and the rate decision early on. That is the Asia session. So expect something around there. And then we also have PMI numbers on the pound. We have PMI numbers on the dollar as well. More news to come tomorrow too. That is then yen. We've got pound, we've got Swiss as a main point of focus there. So that's the calendar. Let's now go to the technicals and the price action. Back to the chart now and our short list. Let's just zoom in. Here we have got what we looked at beginning of the week on the dollar index, that bullish bias. There was the validation point. We had FOMC announcement and a rate announcement yesterday. So this was the volatility, and you can see this big bullish engulfing candle, engulfing many candles before it, and continuing to the buy side. So that's what we would expect. And we have the next possible level here. So this is the next high, continuing higher. Let's now look at the pairs that we looked at. First of all, pound dollar, bullish dollar, weak pound. We just had the pound news hit and it has dragged us further down. Now, didn't quite reach this high. We went lower, created this kind of swing, went lower, as you can see, broke lower, and then we had this big bearish momentum to the downside, and the news was just a continuation of that. We've broken all these targets, and now the next target will be down here, and therefore with it going lower, the next idea would be just a continuation lower. We can now delete all of these. This swing now becomes the invalidation point, and come down. A pullback and continuation to the downside will be the next idea. Of course, more news tomorrow. We've got pound and dollar, and this is the pound dollar. Then therefore watch out for the news there. Clear downside, clear sell bias, as we looked at the beginning of the week. So playing along here, the pound, and there may be more entries to come. Now that we've got such a low price, such a cheap price, then entries on the lower time frame are of higher probability so far because of where we are sitting. We've already sold quite a lot. That is almost 200 pips pretty much. That's the pound dollar. Now let's look at dollar yen. What do we look at? Well, same thing as the dollar, bullish progression there. And here was yesterday the FOMC candle and the rate. We had this zone marked out and we went into it one more time like we expected here. So this was the scenario. in this case, and push higher. And now from here, let's move this to the side. From here, we've got this being the next level, which is where we are at right now. So let's get rid of this from the past, and this would be the next level, lower and then moving higher, which is kind of what we're having at the moment. Our next invalidation point would be the low of yesterday, and if we have the market reacting, then a break, pullback either from here now, or a break and pullback to a better price again on a lower time frame would be a high probability to reach into the next level. And this was that big news for the week, a big candle, which is why you see this very extreme volatility. All right, let's move on to the next one, that is the dollar yen. Here's the CAD yen, and this is what we've got for CAD yen. Just make that a bit bigger. This was the zone to watch for, and this was the idea. However, we have no reaction so far, and let's see whether we do have it later on, perhaps going into tomorrow. This is a yen pair. Not to be surprised if tomorrow, HS session, Friday, we will have something happening or some kind of volatility, but this remains the invalidation and I really want to see a reaction first. And once again, could look at similar sort of idea as always, some kind of break, pull back to a better price and continuing. And that's the idea with bullishness on CAD yen. As you can see, this day could be a temporary pullback, a temporary retracement. That's how I'm looking at it so far, and we'll see if we get that reversal back to the upside. Euro pound, another one that was very cleanly bullish, and as you can see, we had our several points here. So here was the first one, here was the second one we had a reaction of. We had a reaction of today as well with the pound rate news, and as you can see, following along, breaking each of the targets, and here's that next high to reach for. So what do we wait for next? Well, next thing would be this possible area, be a much better cheap price to go into, and then reversal and continuing. We may look on the 1 hour, which is not often, but what would happen is if we reach higher, then of course reaching into this extreme high would be very close at this point, so really not really going to consider anything unless we go lower back into this zone, this level. We've already moved away from it with the news. If we go into the level, and then today or tomorrow, then reaching higher would make sense in terms of high probability, risk reward. But so far we are very expensive price, and the ideal time would have been down here as we started the week. Invalidation of course becomes this swing low. We can now remove these highs and look at the next target. Interestingly, we also have this possible level, so if we see another reaction, we may get a reaction here rather than here. Of course, this is the cheaper price, preferable. However, the market will do what the market will do. No attachment there. Okay, right then, that's the euro pound. Hope you're liking this video and you're following along. Subscribe if you haven't already, and click the like button. Put your comment in if you have any comments or questions about what we're going through this week. Let's move on to Euro New Zealand. Here was our Euro New Zealand idea. The move to the upside with this reversal. So far this seems to be what we are getting here. So here's that possible reversal, and going into the upside, we now want to see a clean break of this swing point. We've had this swing, went lower, and now we've broken it. So first we've had a break of this swing here. We've now come out of this range. This is no longer valid because we didn't have a reaction there. We are having a reaction here. So break 1, break 2, and now let's see a push higher. Now any reversal of this candle and moving higher would be a confirmation, breaking this high and going to the upside. So we will have targets marked out, and there we are. That's the idea. This could be a temporary pullback, and let's see if it holds. It should hold. If it does hold, the high probability is to the upside. Therefore, something like this will be of the higher probability scenario that I'm looking for here. The safe bet is to wait for the daily, and as you can see at the moment we have this engulfing candle, and the expectation is that we close engulfing, and if we close bullish, and especially above the previous day's high, that will be a great confirmation that we are on the way up. And again, draw a fib. As you can see, we are in the cheap zone, cheap area here. So high probability by scenario, and this was the zone we marked out. As you can see, leaving a wick, 1 wick, 2 wick, and possibly the third time we are having a candle with a wick to the downside, which shows a rejection of this level and possible continuation to the upside. That's Euro New Zealand. Let's go to Euro CAD. That was the next on the list. The short, we never reached into this zone. That was a favored one. We have now broken lower. And what did we say? Well, we said if we have this scenario breaking lower, then this one would no longer be of interest. And instead, the new scenario would be the downside. So we've had that break lower, pulling back, and now this is the idea. This becomes the idea. We had one candle with the bearish momentum. If we get another one, that will be the continuation to the downside in terms of a higher probability, and this was the zone. The zone to watch for. We had a bit of a higher movement. It's now in a range. You can kind of look at it like this range. So because of that, I want to see another move lower and ideally break this low over here. And if that is the case, then this will be the validation high. If the market breaks through that, then the whole idea becomes invalid. Let's see if we get a continuation and head back to the downside. There we are. That's the Euro CAD. Kind of indecisive at the moment, not very smooth, not very clear as others. Oh, we already have the invalidation line here, in fact. So not as clean as others, but still the downside pressure. The other possibility is that if we have a break of this high and the candle closes on the 4 hour above this high, then that will be a break of significant structure, and because of that, this idea would likely invalidate itself, because we want to see these levels holding, these highs holding. Yep. The bias is to the downside, and as you can see, daily candles closing to the downside and now heading lower. Okay, we had oil. Now what we said about oil was we have several possibilities. Possibility one would be a reversal of this retracement and continuation to the upside. However, that was not the case. We broke to the downside, so now we are looking to head lower, and it seems that this point will now be broken, particularly with the bullish dollar. So we can now remove these ideas. We can see that we have now broken multiple structural points, and this will be the next one to be broken and head lower still. What would that look like? Well, we have got an invalidation point here, which was the last high. We just have to be flexible, you know, sometimes adaptable to what's going on. And so far right now, very clear the market has turned bearish. So a retracement to get a better price, and then continuing to the downside. If you want to grab a fib, you can do high to low. Here's that halfway mark, so any expensive area would be ideal. Where next from there? Well, we've got this low here, got these lows, and the next obvious lows, as you can see. But we'll have to see whether we actually get there and how far we get to. There's lots of kind of traffic here, there's lots of lows to watch for, but at the moment we're at a cheap price, relatively speaking, into this swing. So we want to see a more expensive price, and once we have that, bias will more likely turn back to the downside with the bullish dollar. Yeah, so that's the scenario here. On oil, so here's the daily. You can see clearly bearish candles so far. And last but not least, into gold, the tricky one. Gold is the pretty volatile one and can be unpredictable. What did we say? Well, we were looking at this area as a possible reversal of. This is the FOMC rate announcement candle. We had a market spike into it. This was the invalidation, did not breach the invalidation point, and we're now turning to the downside as expected. We did have a bit of a, not a bit, I would say, quite a lot of a heavier move to the upside, and now we have broken down and broke this structures, and now we are heading lower. So this is what is the next expectation, creating another swing and then moving lower and lower until this target, and then the next target's lower. So you can see clearly this was the next swing point. So we're going to aim for these lows, and as you can see, that FOMC rate announcement candle just really dragged people much higher, much higher, but did not reach the invalidation point, and then bam, reversed against everybody. It is a mean son of a gun, gold is. Does not take any prisoners, does it? Okay. Right, that is the gold outlook. So we've got our bias once again, as expected, but it just happened to be that we had to wait until that FOMC rate announcement, to be patient until we get our expected idea playing out. All right, then, that is this week. Here we are. That is what we've got going on, and that's what we're looking at. Back into the dollar bullishness as expected. So this is how we are unfolding this week, all looking fairly rosy, at least it is for now. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes bad days, and for this week we are looking good. So thank you very much for joining me. If you liked this video, as always, subscribe, have a look at watch out for the next videos, as always, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I will be with you and breaking down the markets further. Good luck in trading for today and tomorrow, and wish you a good weekend wherever you may be. Okay, bye for now, guys.